Question for you. If you won an election, how would you start your victory speech? Maybe not like this?
Keir Starmer, this is for Gaza.
This is for Gaza. Is that really how you're going to start your victory speech? Just a reminder to you, George Galloway, that you were standing as a local MP for Rochdale, not for Gaza, for Rochdale. You're meant to talk about the issues in Rochdale that you're going to solve, not those in another country, especially when you've got a horrific grooming gang problem in your constituency. And when Sam Coates from Sky News challenged George Galloway after his victory about why his campaign was so focused on Gaza, he couldn't answer the question. He just kept on repetitively boasting the fact that he's just won the election.
We at Sky have spent some time today on the streets of Rochdale, and there are people who say that they feel intimidated by people like you and the people that have supported you.
I have just
and they have pointed out that you have concentrated your campaign on foreign affairs, and they worry that Rochdale will not be the winner.
That's my answer to you. I was just elected with a thumping majority by the electorate in Rochdale. That's all that matters to me.
So why are there people on the streets of Rochdale today worried?
Well, people voted yesterday, and they voted for me. Why is that difficult for you to grasp?
He's clearly just avoiding answering questions and having debate, and it seems to be quite a running theme that George Galloway avoids debate. Let's take a little look back to what George Galloway did some years ago when he disagreed with the now Israeli government spokesman Edon Levy back at an Oxford University debate.
Only a peace treaty can provide a framework for enduring peace and security. I'm sorry, Mr. Galloway?
You said we. Are you an Israeli?
I am, yes.
I don't debate with Israelis. I've been misled. Sorry.
What racism? What racism?
I don't recognise Israel, and I don't debate with Israelis.
Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. A man who storms out a debate on the basis that someone is Israeli is your new Member of Parliament for Rochdale. How hateful. Instead of debating Elon and making good arguments against whatever points Elon made, he decides to make a horrible, hateful comment about the fact that he's Israeli and storms out. This man is a nasty piece of work. This man is mates with Hamas leaders. And the running theme of George Galloway avoiding debate continues. He got his mates to stand outside the Rochdale hustings and got them to stop Simon Dangjou, the Reform candidate, from being able to come in and debate George Galloway. And it wasn't just in the hustings where he avoided debate. Rather than just trying to win a campaign on good ideas and good argument against whatever Simon's policies were, he decided to use threats, intimidation and silencing.
So this was a short campaign, a 4-week campaign, and during that time we spent about half of that time dealing with intimidation, death threats, various other difficulties. So to give you some practical examples, I received a very serious death threat that the police investigated and arrested somebody over. That caused a lot of turmoil within our short campaign. There were businesses that endorsed me who then got threats to take posters down, significant threats. That is all provable. Because of the death threat, we had to move our campaign team out of their accommodation and put them somewhere else. So there are lots of examples. I wasn't allowed to speak at a hustings meeting with the other candidates in the by-election campaign. So there was lots of examples of intimidation. We saw people being intimidated at polling stations as they were going in. In a short campaign, we spent a lot of time dealing with intimidation and significant problems that clearly came from Galloway's supporters.
If that is how this man is going to treat people, if he's going to walk out of a debate just because they're Israeli, and if he's going to try and silence people and use threats and intimidation to win an election, how do you think he's going to treat other members of parliament when he gets to the Commons? MPs are struggling enough with the angry mob outside of Parliament. Look what happened, of course, with the Speaker breaking convention because of threats to MPs from the mob outside of the gates of Parliament. Now we've got one of the extremists inside the building. How do you think that's going to work out? After this horrendous by-election result, Rishi's come out and done a press conference and actually seems to be showing a little bit of backbone for once.
Council meetings and local events have been stormed. MPs do not feel safe in their homes. Long-standing parliamentary conventions have been upended because of safety concerns. And it is beyond alarming that last night the Rochdale by-election returned a candidate who dismisses the horror of what happened on October the 7th, who glorifies Hezbollah and is endorsed by Nick Griffin, the racist former leader of the BNP. I need to speak to you all this evening because this situation has gone on long enough and demands a response not just from government, but from all of us.
Rishi says he's finally going to bring in some new measures to try and control this angry mob that parades the streets of Britain every Saturday.
This week, I've met with senior police officers and made clear it is the public's expectation that they will not merely manage these protests, but police them. We will redouble our support for the Prevent programme to stop young minds being poisoned by extremism. We will demand that universities stop extremist activity on campus. We will also act to prevent people entering this country whose aim is to undermine its values. The Home Secretary has instructed that if those here on visas choose to spew hate or protest or seek to intimidate people, we will remove their right to be here.
Now look, I'm glad to see that Rishi is doing something and finally showing a little bit of strength. But I do feel it is too little, too late, Rishi. These out-of-control protests have been happening every single Saturday since October 7th. That was nearly 5 months ago. 5 months of out-of-hand protests every single Saturday. The new report from the Home Affairs Committee shows that 90% of Jews avoid city centres on Saturdays when these protests are happening. 5 months for which these Jews have had to hide inside on the weekends to avoid Islamist threats. It's not really good enough, is it, Rishi? You, Rishi Sunak, are the one who sacked Suella Braverman after she called out two-tier policing and called out hateful activity in these protests. And also, Rishi, do you not think that this extremism that we're seeing on the streets of Britain has anything to do with the mass migration, both legal and illegal, that you have allowed for years and years, despite voters constantly asking for immigration to be cut down? So, Rishi, if you think that suddenly you're going to win the general election because of this last-minute show of strength, you are delusional.
Have you got what it takes to be a reasoned presenter? Well, send us a short clip of yourself to join@reasoned.uk and we might be seeing you on this very channel very soon indeed.